how Dean does it, but he got a rapper on. A libertarian political rapper, Wildstar. This will be really fun. Check it out.
Righto, ladies and gentlemen, Resolute TV, we're season 2, we're episode 3. I've got Governor Wildstar, Nicholas Wildstar, also known as the rapper Cue Ball, all the way from the United States of America. Welcome, mate.
Hey, pleasure to be here. What's up? What's up? Thank you for having me.
So Nicholas Wildstar, Cue Ball, the rapper, taxes pay killer cops, Resolute TV. Nice to meet you, man.
Hey, it's a pleasure to meet you, and thank you again for having me. I appreciate it.
Mate, look, I come across you from Dan Berman, who you're obviously wearing his shirt. I hooked up with Dan in our first series. He's a really cool guy. We still actually talk fairly regularly. We've become sort of matey, and which is good as we fight for liberty across the continents. Mate,
Yes.
let's start with you. You're a black man with an American flag behind you, so you're not burning the flag. And you've got a taxes pay killer cops. You're a big contradiction. I know you're a libertarian. Do you want to get that out of the way to start with? Because I've seen all the footage of a lot of black men over there who think the flag should be burned, and a lot of what's your story, mate? Tell us all about you.
Well, I would say first and foremost, the fake news is definitely going to report a whole lot of centralized and sensationalized stories and information, especially misinformation. So don't believe the hype. Don't believe none of that bullshit. Yes, I definitely believe taxes pay killer cops. And don't believe that we as taxpayers should have to continue to foot the bill for somebody's bad decisions, especially people that we employ with our tax dollars to do a certain job. So this flag that you see behind me, I definitely carry it high and heavy. But as you can see, it's upside down, which is actually a symbol of a nation in distress and or violation of personal property. Right now, we're experiencing both with this lockdown over the coronavirus here in America. So you guys should be flying your flags upside down, because we are nations all over the world that are in distress. But like I said, here in America, we're supposedly a free country where we have individuals that have rights and liberties that should not be infringed upon. Yet we have a government that's becoming increasingly tyrannical more and more each day by telling us what we can and cannot do with our own bodies. Even though the coronavirus has proven to be one that is pretty much not as contagious and not as deadly as the fake news would like to have us believe, they want to force us to wear masks. They want to force us to distance ourselves from each other and not interact with one another, and pretty much maintain our lives on a virtual level. That's why, the majority of people don't even talk face to face anymore. They're talking over Skype or, platforms like this. And it's sad that we have this growing tyrannical environment where we're not able to express our own thoughts and freedoms. I mean, if I feel like, hey, even if it is deadly, it should be my damn choice to go out there and put my own life in danger. And we're not given that liberty here in America. But I am a black man, and I've experienced tons of prejudice here in this country, especially from law enforcement officers and law enforcement individuals, period. The criminal justice system itself. I've dealt with prosecutors, district attorneys, judges, all of them that have been extremely prejudiced towards me, not only because of the color of my skin, but because of the knowledge that I have to know about application of the law and jurisdiction and legalese involved, etc. And thanks to this, I have viral videos on my YouTube channel. Check me out on YouTube, Governor Wildstar, right there. Name at the bottom of the screen. Hold on, I'm putting it. But check.
All your links will be in the description, mate, as well as where people can find your albums to listen to, the whole lot, mate. We're gonna try and sell you to Australia as much as we can.
Cool.
I love the idea of Australia and America working together. That our corrupt politicians tend to do it when it suits them. So I figure if the libertarian movement can get a bit the same way, we can take the fight to them across the board, mate. So that's one of the reasons why I originally reached out to Dan, and Dan was like, great, cool. And so far, I've met Larry Sharp in a similar version from New York. Adam Kokesh has been on now. Jeffrey Tucker, the economist. So we've I've some amazing guests considering I'm a nobody, over here in the middle of nowhere. It's kind of fun.
Mate, all right, I'm in good company then.
Yeah, I look at the guest list that I've put together, like, how did I manage to pull that off? And people go, how did you do people?
Right, you got heavy hitters on that list.
Reach out and go, hey mate, do you want to have a chat? And they go, yeah, for sure, why not? So mate, you're an excellent company, but you're just adding to the quality of the guests, which I really appreciate you taking the time to do. It just worked out really well this morning that we both had a schedule opening at the same time, and I thought, hey man, what are you doing now? I've just had a schedule opening. Can we jump on? Yeah, great.
For sure, right.
The computer didn't want us talking, so I reckon there's a possibility we're both being tracked by one government agency or another trying to slow us down, mate.
Oh, I know I am. Like I said, I got videos that I record on my YouTube channel where I actually was speaking with FBI agents who let me know that I'm on their watch list simply because I represent myself as a sovereign individual. Now, you wouldn't think that would be a threat, a national security proportions, especially for me standing up for my rights and liberties, but it is because, again, we are living under authoritarians, whether it's here in America or there in Australia. Just look at what your government is doing, and they're acting outside the color of law, or what law is supposed to be, and using the color of law to exact their agenda upon us. So we got to have a mission, and our own mission should be coming together all over the world to fight for freedom. And this rebellion needs to be a global movement. So I'm happy to have you reach out to me. And that's the one thing about libertarians is we really are people of the community. We're not elitists. We're not people that think we're higher than. We're part of that 99% that is fighting to get the 1% that is in control of every faction of our lives out of power. Put that power back into the hands of we the people where it belongs. But it's going to take us uniting and rising up together in order to make that happen.
Mate, 100%. It's funny the way you word it, because we are, as libertarians, we're probably the most for the community people that you'll find, but we're probably the most often called selfish. I don't know if you get that. What do you mean you want to do that? That's selfish. Why wouldn't you want to pay taxes? You need to contribute to those. Whoa, back. No, I'm happy to pay for charities or contribute to, somebody who's having a tough time. I'm not happy to do it at gunpoint from a third entity. I'm not really good at being extorted.
Right.
It's a real personality flaw. I don't like to do things under duress. I like to do them because I want to do them.
Precisely.
Only charity over here.
You don't want to do, they're the ones that come at you with guns and with threats of violence for you to either comply or die, pretty much. And that's what we're faced with our governments. You're right. If I'm going to pay taxes, I should be able to do so voluntarily, not under the threat that you're going to steal my property or throw me in jail or possibly worse if I don't do what you say. And if I do give you my money, I want to be able to say where the hell that money goes. And right now, we don't have any freedom over that at all. That's why, you do have these unwarranted wars happening all over the world. The war on terror here in America has been going on since 2001, and they still keep it going. The war on drugs has still been going since the 80s, the war on religion and freedom of speech. We see that growing tremendously each day. So we definitely got to put our foot down and say, hey, your job is to do what we tell you to, not the other way around. And if you got a problem with that, you need to be removed from power, fire their asses, or take it back by physical damn means if you need be. There's some radical countries out there that are they've had enough, like Egypt And, some of these other countries in Asia where, like China, where the people are rising up to fight back against their government and, basically remove them from power by physical force if necessary. We're hoping that it doesn't come to that point here in America, but with what's happening, with the divide among the public, we the people, we see that as being possibly one of the only options, especially with this election around the corner. You have a lot of people upset both on the right and the left that feel like if they don't get their way, they're going to forcefully do something and about it and, make us all victims to it.
Yeah. And I mean, we get to watch your election time fairly closely. And I don't know your personal opinions on Trump and Biden. I find Trump sort of funny in some areas, like as far as an entertainer, but as far as a politician, I think, well, but then I don't really like most politicians, so that's not a win. But Trump, you kind of look at him and go, if nothing else, he's kind of, it's a show to watch and you can sort of go, okay, wild. Whereas Biden, I just look at and the poor guy can barely string a sentence together. And I just think you're putting somebody feeble in there. Maybe it's a good idea to have somebody who's really feeble and hopeless in the Oval Office because they'll do less. But then you worry about the puppeteers behind them. I mean, I don't know if you have a preference. I'd rather see Joe Jorgensen get up.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I vote Joe all the way. Go Joe Jorgensen, not Joe Biden. I mean, he's a career politician that has proven to be ineffective in his role, not only as a senator, but as a vice president. He's done nothing to help the people, nothing at all. He's, if anything, he was one of the co-authors of the crime bill in the 90s, which made, drug offenses more, increased drug offenses and basically increase the sentences for nonviolent crimes. So that, in effect, has harmed people of color, the Black community, the brown community, the Asian community. All of those communities have fallen victim to these legislative, weapons that the people like Joe Biden has created. Now, Trump, on the other hand, he's pretty much one of those elitists, one of those people of privilege that have pretty much been put in position to control the agenda for the people that would like to continue to stay in power. So I see him as being one of the same swamp members that he claimed to wanted to clean up in Washington, especially seeing as he's done nothing to battle the national debt and the Federal Reserve and what they've done to our monetary system by devaluing our currency. He's done nothing to end the occupational wars all over the country, all over the world, and has even sent out federal agents on the streets of America, creating a more tumultuous situation and basically setting the foundation for a civil war. So it's all theatrics to him. And it's sad that somebody such as him, that basically got their power off of, being in debt. I see he got that book back there that he sold, but he has casinos. Yeah, he has casinos that went bankrupt. He has schools and other business ventures that went bankrupt, but because he comes from a lineage of, again, privilege, he's able to walk to a bank, say, I want to borrow $100 million or whatever, and they give it to him. On the other, and every other individual, he'd have a hard time getting that amount of money and being able to borrow that without any type of collateral other than our namesake. So,
and it's your firstborn child if you want to borrow that sort of money, and think about it. I mean, in saying that, I do have a couple of Trump books. I've even got Fidel Castro books. I've got Australian political books.
All right.
I've got a big range because most people don't know this about me. People often say things like, "You're smarter than we thought you are," because I'm just a knockabout Aussie bloke and I don't go out of my way to be an intellectual or anything. But yeah, I mean, every book on this shelf has been read. Everything from Napoleon Bonaparte to Fidel Castro to Mussolini through to you know, Jeffrey Tucker and guys like that. So, you know, I like to look at all these people and see the different perspectives, and it helps me kind of in my head justify the battles that I'm fighting when I do take on government. So I've ran as a candidate in Australia for our version of the Libertarian Party a couple of times. You know, people go, oh, well, if you changed your policies and made them more popular, you might get elected. It's like, it's not the point. Why would I want to change my policies? I'm not in here to get elected. I'm in here to hold these guys accountable.
Exactly.
So what it's all about for me, I think you're very similar. Mate, there is a little area that I did definitely want to touch on with you. I sort of, when I reached out the other day, and I sort of put, I have a nephew who wants to be a rapper. Now, I know you've got albums out. So my 8-year-old nephew, Nate, he's trying to work out who the best rapper in the world is, and they've got to be the fastest in his 8-year-old opinion. Have you got any advice for my 8-year-old nephew on becoming a rapper, mate?
Well, I would say first things first, never sell out, you know. You got to stay true to who you are as a person, and you have a lot of rappers, musicians right now that basically make music for the simple point of making money. That's not the motivation behind me being an artist, and never was, never will be. And that's why the music that I put out, I actually put it out for free. You know, my last album, I put it out on SoundCloud, paid the fees myself, made it available for download for people for free, simply because I wanted my music to get out there, and I wanted it to encourage people through what I was saying to get motivated. That's why I consider myself more of an raptivist, a rapper activist, you know. So that's people like
I think it's a really cool point of difference for you. You know what I mean? Like a lot of guys are, you know, I'm an activist, and they're very committed. And you go, yeah, but who are you? Why are you there? What have you done? What have you contributed? Whereas you've got this whole another point of difference. I grew up listening to Public Enemy and Tupac, and
exactly.
you know, I've got about 400 CDs out in the shed of just about every rapper you can imagine. And you know, and even those guys, when you think back to, I watch Chuck D now. I follow him on Instagram. Obviously, when I was a kid, he was a great hero of mine, and I look at a lot of it, and I think, hang on a minute, like he's so anti-Trump, but the Democrats, from what I can see, have been just as big a problem. And I'm like, now I can't speak from a black man's perspective as such, but I sort of think, hang on, Chuck, you were always rebelling against the machine, but you want Biden in? That seems a bit weird, dude.
Exactly.
And that's place to tell you, but
these people, they're still uneducated. They're still playing into that opposition that we need to sustain the duopoly in order for us to, I guess, have the type of society that we have. But to me, in order for you to truly challenge the establishment, you can't be supportive of any establishment candidate at all, whether they're on the right or the left. So it is very disappointing when because I'm a big Public Enemy supporter, also big Chuck D fan, and to have him pretty much separate the group Public Enemy because, you know, Flavor Flav didn't want to go in concert and sell out their music for Joe Biden because he disagreed, and they broke up the group and didn't, you know, go around touring because of it. So it's sad that they can take such a thing into accordance, and now you have, you know, Ice Cube coming out talking about that he's supportive of, not supportive, but have worked with the Republicans on creating a support program for Black America, which is founded on debt, borrowing more money from the Federal Reserve, and which will do nothing to help the Black community except for dig them deeper into debt. So he's miseducated or uneducated and misinformed about our monetary system and how it works in general. So it's sad that
I see the Ice Cube tweets, the tweets and the Instagram posts, but I also saw the amount of heat that he was getting for, oh, you're a sellout. And it's like, hang on a minute, 10 minutes ago he was selling out the other way. I hate Trump, Trump's a bastard, these people all need to be. And it's like, and again, I grew up listening to these guys, and I was one of those kids who really listened to the lyrics. A beat, it was never the beat for me, it was the words. And, you know, and I've actually got a book here, Little X, as well, where I actually read about the Nation of Islam and, you know, all that sort of stuff. And a lot of what I liked about what those guys are doing, they're going, you know what, we're oppressed. These guys are assholes. We don't like them. We want out. So we need to build our own businesses, build our own communities, build our own, build our own, and take responsibility for ourselves. And I never saw that as a black versus white thing. It was our community's been maligned by this group. We're just going to go and sort our own shit out, which I thought was, I always just loved that from the time I was a small kid. I did see, and I don't know if you know anything about it, Big Boy from Outcast has started working with a bank, some new form of a bank, which I thought, well, that's pretty cool because Big Boy is very clever from what I've seen. Do you know anything about the new banking system they're proposing? That seems really interesting.
Yeah, I believe that he's actually working with, like you said, some banks, and same thing with Killer Mike, working with some banks to help create a people's bank, I guess, that would help the people of the Black community and brown community, minorities here in America. So if that does come to fruition, if it's based on that still, or if it's still based on that, that broken economical system, then it's in no way, shape, or form going to benefit us as human beings, no matter what community that you're in, because we're still taxpayers and we're still having to fund this central banking system, which has again devalued our currency and continues to dig us deeper into debt by borrowing and spending, that trend. So it's definitely not going to be anything that benefits us, which is why I, as a candidate for California governor, I'm running for governor of California, and I am proposing to create a People's Bank of California, which will be owned by the people of California, not by any banking institute. And it will not have to adhere to federal regulations, which is why you'll be able to go into the People's Bank of California and you'll be able to make transactions in precious metals, whether it's gold or silver, and even cryptocurrency, and not only that, but we'll have customers from the cannabis industry, which right now is not allowed to do public, banking with a public bank or private bank for that matter, or whatever bank. So in the state of California, since cannabis is an industry and one that creates contributes to the economy here, we want to be able to allow those businesses to do banking as they should, since they are respectable professional businesses. They need to be treated as such. So they'll be able to go into the People's Bank of California, make transactions, deposit that money, and have that benefit those people in those communities. So where Black people I can't walk into Wells Fargo and say, give me $10 million. They're not going to do it. No matter how good of a business proposal or business plan I come up with, they may slap it down for whatever reason. But in the People's Bank of California, those people that are ignored and shunned away by the big banks, they'll be able to get those small business loans and prosper and grow. And that's what we want to do. If we want to really develop in the inner city, we got to give them the financial tools to do so. And economic illiteracy is definitely a problem. It's sad, again, that these people like, Big Boy and Killer Mike and Ice Cube and Chuck D, or whatever the case may be, that they still are continuing to promote the establishment and their false business, fraudulent business.
Yeah, do you think they're complicit, or do you think these guys are sort of trying and looking for angles to do the right thing, but they're just not getting the right information, or they're, you know what I mean? Like, obviously, I'd be heartbroken if I thought Chuck D was full of shit. You know what I mean?
I think it's a little bit of A, it's a little bit of B. You have some complacency, with them again, not wanting to really challenge the narrative, not really wanting to challenge the establishment. It's unfortunate that they're disingenuine because we listen to their music, hear their words, and if you're not going to be a man of your word, then what are you good for? And when you say these things and you're not following through with your actions, then to me, you are full of shit. On the flip side of that, you have people that are doing it for a paycheck. It's just simply put, and let's be honest, they're doing it so they can get a paycheck and get paid. So as long as they continue to, again, promote the establishment that exists, then they'll continue to stay well funded. And a lot of people don't want to have their own pocketbook threatened when it comes to promoting the agenda of freedom. That's one that comes with a big threat because you are challenging a long time established system that is based on fraud, corruption, and violence, you know? So you have to be willing to basically throw down your life, you know, and be willing to sacrifice everything just to kind of disrupt it in any way, especially if you want to disband it.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I mean, look, when I first started this podcast, and I've got no delusions of being anybody famous or anything like that, I couldn't care less. But I sat down and I thought to myself, if I can create a body of work, freedom focused, it's not necessarily libertarian. You know, I've got an MMA fighter who hopefully in a couple of hours will be the new Bellator World Women's Featherweight Champion.
All right.
And all that she comes on regular. But for me, part of supporting her was, you know, her independence and her striving and trying to achieve things, which I think is a positive thing. I really hope to put together a body of work whereby in 50 years' time, people will look at it and go, you know what, these guys were trying to fight for the freedoms of the people. And, you know, and if we fail and all of us are living under totalitarian regimes, at least I'll be on record that nobody will be able to say I didn't have a crack at doing something. You know, and if it cost me, and I lost a business over a certain amount of this stuff, and I've gained other things and developed other businesses, but there is a price to pay by having principles. And most people is, are you willing to pay that price for what you believe in, and how is it worth it? You know, should I sell out and go, oh, look, I'll do whatever the government tells me to do? Sorry, guys, really, really apologise. Can I have $80,000 a year to live on? Which in Australia will put you in the medium to upper echelons of middle class. You know,
exactly.
You're a man of your convictions. I've been watching your videos. The George Floyd stuff. Now, we copied you over here. Black Lives Matter happened over there. It happened here about 12 minutes later. We've got the Aboriginal community, and they've had some real nasty shit happen to them throughout history. I think we're about 200 and something year old country. You guys are about 400 and something year old country.
Yeah. But
for some reason, the minute Black Lives Matter happened there, they popped up over here and tried to do the same thing, burning the flags and all the sort of, I don't want to call it nonsense because it's important to stand up for what you believe in. But did you find, like, the George Floyd thing? So the media tells us that, one, he was a bad dude doing a lot of bad shit, and X, Y, you know, like apparently a gun to a mother's stomach and all that sort of stuff. That's what we got in the media. And then on the other side of it, you've got some cop and his three mates watching him kill the guy on camera, and he didn't seem too concerned about killing a guy. I don't care if you're the biggest drug addict in the world. Our taxpayer-funded police shouldn't be murdering people.
You just said
without impunity.
That's
you know. How did that actually react for you? You're there and you're involved, mate.
Exactly. I mean, you just hit the nail on the head when you said that, because that's really the bottom line of the situation is consequences should have actions. And these are people that we're employing with our money to do a particular job. That job is to be a peacekeeper. They're police officers, they're policy enforcers, but you're supposed to keep the peace in the process. You know, if you're not a peacekeeper first, then you don't need to be enforcing any policies at all whatsoever. So whether he's a good guy or a bad guy, if you're not doing your jobs according to those guidelines, then you shouldn't be in that position. And it's unfortunate that they focus more on discrediting him as an individual, as if his life as a human being did not matter. That is what the Black Lives Matter message is all about. I'm completely behind the message of Black Lives Matter, that we as human beings, as melanated human beings here on this planet, need to be treated respectfully as anyone else of a lighter shade of brown. And it's unfortunate that this message has to be argued and protested on such a level, but it's one that has been ignored for hundreds of years here in this country. And we're that generation that has had enough. We're not going to take it anymore. And either you're going to finally acknowledge that, or we're going to set shit on fire and burn it all down, because it doesn't deserve to stand to begin with, and it shouldn't continue to stand on those false foundations and on those prejudiced foundations. Now, when it comes to the Black Lives Matter organization, the global organization that collects tens of millions of dollars from donations from people like you and me that want to actually help the Black community and do nothing but pad their pockets and make sure that they're sitting pretty somewhere. Hell no, that shit's got to go. This is a white man's movement, and I tell Black people about that all the time. You have a multi-billionaire by the name of George Soros, who was one of the original financiers behind this movement. So it's not far-fetched for us to believe that somebody's continuing to fund this supposed movement, and those people have ulterior motives. It isn't to help the Black community, it's to destroy the Black community so they can come in and buy up the Black community, and if anything, make a pretty profit from it. So in these cities that have been destabilized due to violence or any type of riots or anything like that, looting, you have investors coming in, buying up those properties, and then raising the property value. And now the people that live there can no longer afford to live there, and then they're displaced and they have to move somewhere else. And that's what they're doing. The people behind and have orchestrated these destructive tendencies of the people involved in them. Many of them are paid provocateurs. They're paid to be out there and cause havoc. Now, those people are not the majority. The majority of the people involved in the Black Lives Matter protests, like myself, have been extremely peaceful, have been only out there to promote the message of Black Lives Matter and speak about the injustices in our criminal justice system, which I said myself, I've experienced myself for over a decade, and majority of my life, really. I can go back further when I was a teenager and was assaulted physically by police officers. So this is a long time problem in this country, and it needs to end. My son, who just turned 1, I'm not going to allow it to where him 10, 15, 20 years from now is still fighting the same fight that I'm fighting right now. My father should have ended that fight. My great-grandfather and grandfather, they should have ended that fight. But that complacency kicks in where they're like, hey, I'm tired. I just want to live my life, pay my bills, have some sex and pop out some babies. And we got to think past that as human beings. If we want to really invest into our society, we have to focus, how are we contributing members? And if it's not by making sure that we're changing the life path of our society, which at this point seems to be towards destruction, we want to veer it in a different way towards peace and prosperity. And that's why I'm out there. But I educate as many people as I can about the root of the cause. When I go out to these protests, unfortunately, I haven't been well received by the orchestrators or coordinators of these Black Lives Matter rallies here where I am, because they're Democrats. And Democrats are behind the Black Lives Matter movement. And they're more so wanting to just get more Black people to support their agenda and support their policies, when those Democratic policies have been ones that have harmed the Black community. So I go out there with this shirt and say, hey, this is how you stop it. If you really want to stop killer cops from killing Black people or brown people or white people, because they don't talk about how how cops kill white people too. Duncan Limp, Kelly Thomas. I mean, I can go on and on, but
the Australian lady that got a white Australian lady that was living in America got murdered by a cop. And then the argument became he was a Muslim, and it's like, listen, you're missing the whole point.
Yeah, because his skin color was like this, they threw his ass in jail quick. Meanwhile, Breonna Taylor, someone who has been proven to be pretty much innocent in her killing, The 3 cops that killed her are pretty much, still out and living their lives innocently. And it's just sad that
the footage of I don't know if they were Black Lives Matter protesters or what they were surrounding Rand Paul talking about the Breonna Taylor thing. It's like Rand Paul was put forward the bill to try and stop this. Like, do you people know what you don't even know what you're protesting? It's
right, and because
crazy, mate.
Yeah, because they're so miseducated again by the Democratic Party to say, hey, this is actually somebody that's an ally and somebody that's been working to change things. Just as Justin Amish, he's one of the few libertarian politicians, the only one libertarian senator, and he introduced a bill to end qualified immunity, which basically gives these police officers immunity in their role as police officers. So he wanted to end that, introduce this to the Senate, and has the only bill, I believe, at this point that has tripartisan support. He's a libertarian. He got Republicans back in the bill and Democrats. But you don't see Black Lives Matter out there telling people this is a bill that needs to be passed. Put pressure on your legislators to pass this bill because they have their own agenda and they could care less about Black people, period.
Mate, 100%. Based on, and it was funny because you tangented it off naturally into the George Soros, so we're definitely two peas in the pod in that area, mate. That's the next question I was going to ask was, do you feel like Black Lives Matter is being run by a whole other agenda and a whole other mob?
Oh hell yeah!
Soros? And you landed it. So if I said to you, all lives matter, what would that phrase mean to you? So obviously some people take great offense to the comment, all lives matter. Some people go, well, why should Black people be separate? Don't they all want to be part of us? And how would you interpret the statement when somebody says all lives matter as opposed to Black Lives Matter?
Well, I think it's a bit ignorant for people to use it as a counter argument to people that say Black Lives Matter. I mean, all lives matter is a fact of the matter. What Black Lives Matter is as a message is to say these people in particular of our our United States, this community is being attacked. We need to help them. If it was Mexican Lives Matter, it would definitely be, again, a counter argument. If it was women's lives matter, it would definitely, again, be a counter to that message. So those people that are out there saying that are saying it for the wrong reasons. It isn't to correct the wrongs that have been done to those people in particular. It's to basically correct the idea of what those people are saying and stating in their protest. And it shouldn't be discredited in such a way. It's sad that it's used as a counter argument to do such a thing. But me personally, I mean, I actually had my own argument with chapter leaders of Black Lives Matter when it originally first started. I went to one of those chapter meetings myself, fill it out and see if I wanted to get involved on an instrumental level as an activist. And I asked the simple question, which you just said, could the name of, the organization or what you're doing, the movement, Black Lives Matter, alienate those people that see themselves as allies? Since, you got Hispanic people that are number one, actually, in America, especially in the state of California, that get killed by police officers. You got white people that get killed by cops. And, they're out there to help fight against police brutality. But could this name, Black Lives Matter, be alienated? All of a sudden, I was called a paid provocateur, and I was asked if I was an FBI agent. And one of the coordinators actually pulled me out of the meeting and started to insult me personally by saying, I bet you're one of those niggas that only date white women. And my wife, who I've been married to almost 10 years now is Black. She also insulted me by saying, I bet you haven't dealt with anything with the cops, not knowing that I've been repeatedly assaulted physically by police officers and have challenged them on their level. So these are people that are pretty much being brainwashed into believing one specific thing, and is prejudiced as all lives matter may be, Black Lives Matter itself is a bit prejudiced as well. So to correct the issue without
seems like a divisive term. You know, for me, I just sort of look at everybody and I just go, "Oh, you're having a tough time. If I can help you, I will." And hopefully, if I'm ever having a tough time, somebody will reach out to me. And I don't care if the person who reaches out to help me is black, white, green, Asian, you know, whatever. When I saw the branding come out, I thought, "Oh, it's just yes, Black Lives Matter. Yes, white lives matter. Yes, Asian lives matter." I just sort of thought it was a bit of a way to fire up flames, if that, you know, does that make sense? It seemed inflammatory. Great word. Sorry, no English. It did feel fairly inflammatory, and specifically when I did some research into it, and I sort of see the whole George Soros lead in, and you go, "Hang on, there's some real subversive shit going on here, and it's not on."
Well, it's meant to be inflammatory, you know, it's meant to provoke people and incite them to, you know, get up in arms about this movement in particular. And if it is gained towards Black people, that is the goal of it. It's been, as a grassroots organization and movement, it's been overtaken by, you know, big financiers and investors. And that's the term astroturfing. That's where it comes from, is from big money pretty much taking over grassroots movements. So we've seen that happen. But as far as the name itself, again, being divisive and being inflammatory, I think that was the point of it. But I think more so is because people associate white power, white lies, white this, white whatever, with white supremacy, which is the foundation of those statements and movements. However, on the flip side, when you say Black power, when you say, you know, Black Lives Matter, it does not demean anyone else. It never was. It's all about empowerment of the individual, empowerment and strength and unity of the Black community. So I think that's where the media comes into play by, again, sensationalizing the issue to say, well, Black Lives Matter is similar to, you know, white lives matter, which is not, you know, to say so. And again, like you said, all lives matter. If we as Americans were thinking that, like, hey, all of our lives matter, and we pay specific people to protect them, and they're not protecting our lives, therefore they need to go. We'd be more united in making sure that there was true reform in our criminal justice system. But as long as it's continuing to be dissected and divided into different factions, then we're never going to be able to stand together behind that issue. So I'm doing myself my best as a candidate to do whatever I can. That's why I've actually partnered with Cal Exit. It's a movement here in California to push secession away from the United States. Basically to say that if you don't do what we say as California residents, we will separate from the Union and be our own country. And I'm letting people know, as a candidate, as someone who cares about Black lives and about white lives and all lives, that if the government does not do what the hell that we say, we will separate ourselves from the Union and we will make it happen. Independent.
Create a free, independent state of people who voluntarily want to associate. We've got a libertarian candidate, an elected official libertarian. We've actually got 3 elected libertarians in Australia at the moment. And Tim Quilty is a top guy. Our party is actually called the Liberal Democrats, not the Libertarian Party. I'm not quite sure why that is as it is, but the party's called the Liberal Democrats. It is as libertarian as you get. Of course, they run me as a candidate, so anything can happen. But Tim Quilty, he's one of the Victorian. I don't know if you're up with the news in Victoria. Victoria is pretty well a communist republic down there at the moment. And Tim's actually been calling for a regional exit for certain areas where we need to separate, create more states that are a lot more, the people controlled as opposed to being controlled from a federal bureaucracy, which I love Tim's idea there. I love your idea on that. I've been doing a lot of work on the micronation concept, like, no, I don't want to be a part of. I'm I've purchased this property. I paid for it outright. I own it. It's, you know, no, I don't want any of your services. I just want to be left alone. Mine, go away. And, you know, I love that concept of California doing that. Is California in the poor state that we're getting told that it's in? So we're getting an awful lot of media here that basically says California's pretty close to a disaster zone. It's not in real. For a place where LA for so many years was, you know, Hollywood and Vegas and, you know, very glamorized, most of the media about LA now is that it's essentially a shithole. Is that I don't know what term for it, you know, shithole?
In part, and it's mainly because of the economic disparity. You know, there's such a divide with the haves and the have-nots that if you go to places like Hollywood and Los Angeles and some of the richer communities, you're going to see a vast amount of homeless people living on the streets, you know, and a lot of times those people resort to drugs to escape their problems. So they have substance use problems, and these issues are not being addressed directly. Instead, they're the Democrats, because we have a Democratic-led government here in California. We have a Democratic governor, and we have a Democratic owned or majority Senate as well as Assembly. So all three factions of our legislative body and governmental body here in California is predominantly Democratic led. And so because of that, they use those issues to then campaign on and say, hey, get me in office so I can fix this. And then they get in office and do nothing. For instance, Maxine Waters, her district in Los Angeles is one of the most, I would say, down-ridden places in the entire nation. And if you go there, there are tens of thousands of people that are living on the streets. It's ridiculous, especially when that area generates so much money for the surrounding community and the state of California as a whole. So we have this misappropriation of funds happening in government. They're getting tens of millions of dollars in taxes to fix these problems like homelessness, yet doing nothing, using it for temporary solutions like, you know, them being housed in a hotel for a few months or something like that, and then overpaying for those type of services. So it's, again, a misuse of our money as taxpayers to not really address the problem. But California is definitely on the downturn, more so because of the Democratic controlled government and them not wanting to really address and fix the problems because they can use it as a campaigning issue. So I, of course, am coming in with solid solutions. My solution for homelessness is to build 3D printed homes. These homes can be built in less than 24 hours, cost less than $5,000. They're self-sustainable, so they have their own water, their own electricity, and, you know, and they can be used as temporary housing to get these people off of the streets and actually give them an opportunity to get ahead in life. And that's what we want to do, is provide them with those tools. We could also address substance use by allowing, mental health professionals and, drug counselors to go out there and help those people instead of sending out police officers, in which case most of those interactions end up into them either going to jail and taxpayers having to, spend money for them going in jail, or them harming that individual and having to pay a hefty lawsuit sum to their family, or someone related to them. So there's ways to turn around the state. It just starts first with leadership. And the one thing I appreciate about Australia, one thing that I've learned is, there's actually a holiday around, mending the ties between the Aboriginals and the indigenous people of, Australia and the colonists, that basically took over the land. I think it's called Atonement Day or something like that. What is it?
Yeah, it's a funny one. It's not as prominent as you probably think. There have been attempts for these sorts of things. And, you know, you look at it and you go, oh, you know, I've got some Aboriginal friends and family who are really great people who see it completely different. And I'm sure it's the same in your black community. There are people there who go, I don't need your help. I don't need your atonement. I don't need your, you know, Morgan Freeman talking about Black History Month. Why do I get a special month? You know? And you sort of, and you've got people like that who are along those lines. And then you've got others who go, well, you stole my country from my ancestors and you guys are all bastards and whatever. We do have there are certain elements that really want to work together. I don't believe Australia at its core is racist at all. But like everything, there are Aboriginal people who hate white people just on the fact that they're white people. And there are white people who hate black people just because they're black. And I think people like that are just so stupid, it hurts my head. It's positive to see that there are groups trying to work towards those sort of things. It's just, it's like everything, a long way to go.
Oh yeah, definitely. But at least it's a step in that direction to atone, you know, and mend those broken fences, opposed to where in America, we're simply in denial, saying, you know, racism was so long ago, get over it. And they're not recognizing how the systemic establishment of racism has harmed future generations like myself, and how if we don't end it, it's going to end up affecting the next generation like my son. So if we truly want to end it, and here in our country, in America, where we're this tremendous melting pot of all different cultures, all different ethnicities, etc., then we need to get to that point to where peace and unity is our focus instead of division and ignorance. And I feel like with Trump and his administration is focused on division and ignorance. And the same thing with Biden, you know, because it has same factions of that sentiment that we should just get over it and, you know, move along with our lives. But I, for one, feel like here in the state of California, they're attempting to pass a bill to provide reparations to Black people. I don't feel like that's necessary. As a taxpayer, I don't want to be paid, you know, reparations or any type of government payment from people that had nothing to do with slavery. I support restitutions, which is making sure that those specifically involved in the slave trade or made their, you know, millions and trillions off of, you know, slavery, to pay back those descendants of slavery. And if we focused on doing exactly that, then there would be less turmoil amongst those people that feel otherwise. But I, for one, feel like, you know, that needs to be the path. And as governor of California, that's what I would definitely do, is attempt to unify the people under the, you know, umbrella of freedom, that one true principle that we all believe and support, no matter where you come from.
Don't hurt people and don't take their stuff. Or my little catch cry is do no harm but take no shit. You know, you don't have to.
There we go.
You don't have to be a victim, but you don't have to hurt anybody else to not be a victim. You can just empower yourself, empower your community, empower your friends and family. The reparations thing, and I'm glad you brought it up. Here's the beauty of two libertarians talking. We don't even need to have a list of topics to touch them, because it's almost natural for us to touch these sort of things. The question that I would have, so the government of America, with whatever their annual budget blowout of fiat currency is, went, right, every victim of slavery gets X amount of dollars. And it's the same, how do you justify what percentage of somebody's income is a reasonable amount to steal in taxes? What percentage of slavery ancestry do you need to have? What if, as an example, if your wife's a black woman, but say your wife was a white woman, well, do your kids only get 50% of what, Joe, who's both grandparents or great-grandparents were slaves? How in the world would you work something like that out? And I just think, it's nice to go, we need reparations, we need to be supported, blah, 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 but you kind of go, how in the world would that work?
Yeah, exactly.
In a sense, it's almost impossible. Bill McRae would like to just go,
it would be one of the worst public programs in the history of America. I mean, we got so many welfare programs as is, whether, it's people needing some help because they are unemployed or not working at the time or hungry and need food stamps or something like that. But this would be, surpass those tremendously as far as it being another welfare program, because you have millions of people in America that would basically, like you said, fall under that category. And they may not all be, people with, darker skin. You may have some white people that are descendants of slavery, and through their lineage and, bloodline or whatever the case may be, now they have access to those funds. So does it really help the Black community? No. And again, when it comes to those people that are paying the bill, it's going to be every taxpayer, no matter what your job is, no matter where your source of income is coming from, it's going to be taxed severely, and it's going to be given to someone else undeservedly. That needs to stop. And how are we going to change that? We have to change people's minds first, people's understanding about how we can actually atone for our sins. And if we hold those people that were liable accountable, then now we have an opportunity to make sure that, we can fix things without having to harm more people in the process. It's sad that all of our money is now being poured into, I guess, this discovery, to where they're doing investigations to even find out who would qualify to, to get that money. They're already using our tax dollars, unwisely to do that. So if it's a matter of fixing things, we're definitely going to have to change our leadership first.
We back? Yeah, I can actually hear everything you're saying.
Oh, okay.
And the government's just going, YouTube, we've got to stop this. This is not happening.
Exactly. They don't like me, I'm telling you. As I was told, I'm a glitch in the matrix. I'm not supposed to exist. Shit. But I do.
Yeah, no, I can tell you this. They don't like me either one little bit, but too bad for them.
You're right.
Mate, Governor Wildstar, Cue Ball, the rapper, if anybody wants to check out his stuff, we're going to put all the links in the description. So you've got an alter ego. I really appreciate your time this morning. It just worked out well that we both managed to cop an hour at the same time. You're an absolute legend. All the links in the description. If you're in California watching, this is the man to vote for. If you actually want a true free California, true free America, we need more guys like the good governor here. And thank you so much. I appreciate it. We'll share all the links. I'll send you some copies and links to what we're doing. I'll share around all your stuff. And ladies and gentlemen, signing off with Governor Wildstar. Cue Ball, the rapper. Thank you so much. Have a great day, mate.
God bless you. Same to you, brother, man. Talk to you soon.